right, we are recording, Hector. We are live.
Very well. Nice to hear from you. How are you doing?
Thank you, Hector. Nice to hear from you. Nice to see you. I think about you guys often. Wondering how kids at the high school are handling this. I believe we're 3 weeks out. Overall, I'm doing fine. My family is doing fine. Everybody is adjusting to the new norm as best as possible. I would say my adjustment has probably been a little easier than that of my wife and my daughters, as we've been working, the top public schools leadership team, our principals, and our essential personnel. We've been working throughout the closure. If anything, our days are probably longer and a little more packed with activities during the day. A typical day will probably consist of 3 or 4 Zoom calls, then obviously adjusting to the needs of our students, our staff, and our families during this pandemic crisis.
Yeah, that's good to hear. For the students, we are trying to stay busy. Not being in the classroom can be a little bit boring. I know for myself, the days have felt longer, and I'm trying to stay busy finding new things to do. But I think that this entire situation has caught everyone a little bit by surprise. So we're kind of doing the best that we can to figure out how to maximize what we can do during this time. So
What's a typical
I
day
have
look like?
seen, and
I'm
other people have
curious.
seen.
I'm curious. Sorry, I'm curious.
Mhm.
Like, what's a typical day look like for you?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
What's a typical day look like for you during the school closure? It looks like my internet stable is unstable. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah,
All
you
right.
just cut out a few times.
Maybe it could be these earbuds. Let me see if I can move them aside. So my question for you, Hector, if I can flip the table, is what does a typical day look
Mhm.
like for you? Like from morning, afternoon, into the evening and night?
So I'm a little bit different than my peers. I usually go to bed earlier and wake up, or go to bed earlier and wake up earlier. So for me, for example, I'll wake up anywhere from 5 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the morning. And from there, I'll eat breakfast, um, check anything I need to, such as emails, knock out a little bit of schoolwork. And then from there, I'd say anywhere from 11 to 10 if it's a weekday, or 11 to 1, I might have some classwork that teachers have assigned that we can do if we would like, or some Google Meet calls or Zoom calls that we just talk about what's going on and what they know so far, what the plan is going to be. And then after that, it's around 1 o'clock in the evening. And for me, I either um, we'll play video games or watch YouTube. Doing this kind of just to relax a little bit, but also watching YouTube to learn some things, figure out what I can do for the next few years in high school that'll maximize what I can do in my future. And then I will usually go to bed anywhere from 8 to 9, and usually repeat that process.
So it sounds like, so I was just going to say, one of the things that I found has been helpful for me is having a schedule, having that
Yeah.
routine. So I agree. Waking up in the morning, and so typically I'm up around 5:30. I like to have my coffee, get caught up on the news. Then around 7 o'clock, I'll get ready for work.
Mhm.
So shower, get dressed, come into either my home office where we've been asking staff to work remotely, or if I need to be in the office, I will go into my office. Obviously, we're practicing and adhering to the social distancing recommendations. And then again, like I said, a typical work day. Yeah. So yesterday, for example, we didn't knock off till about 6:30 yesterday, and then obviously we're checking emails throughout the evening. So I find having a routine to be very helpful, and I would encourage your classmates. As easy as it is to not have a routine, I would
Mhm.
encourage
Yeah.
your classmates to take your lead and have a routine. I think having a routine really helps during times like this where you don't have the ability to interact socially or you don't have the ability to go out. and you just hang out with your friends or have that routine, that structure of school. So the more that you and your colleagues or you and your friends can do to establish a structure at home, a routine at home, I think will help you to get through this. And I also think it'll prepare you for college, because when you're in
Yeah.
college, you're gonna, or whatever you pursue after high school, you're gonna be responsible for setting up your own routine and your own good habits. So I'm proud of you, Hector. I'm not surprised, but I'm
Thank you.
proud of you.
Definitely working on time management. I think that's the biggest part of this.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Keeping on track. So I've seen in the past few weeks that we've been off, and heard from other people, and even seen it, that the Taunton Public School system is doing its best to provide Chromebooks and internet access to students that may not have access to it at home, and also providing meals to the school community. So can you just kind of give what you guys have been working on to make that a possibility and bring that into action?
Yeah, so let me go back to when this all started, which would have been probably the week before we closed. So we ended up making the decision to close on the 13th. And the prior week and the week before that, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of preparation. And one of the things I noticed that was happening was, including myself and the leadership team, was we were losing focus. We were really spread thin, and we were focusing on areas that I felt really weren't important, or areas that we should have prioritized. So we came up with an acronym called EMOC, which stands for education, meals, operations, compensation, and communication. And we decided that those would be our 5 areas of focus. So that if something did not fall into one of those 5 buckets, it would just have to wait until we were able to get a good handle on those 5 areas. So with regards to the education plan, one of the things that we realized early on was that, and no fault of anyone, but one of the things we noticed early on was that we have about 50% of our population that's free and reduced lunch. So as many communities around us were talking about online learning or going to one-to-one, we realized that some of our families don't have that capability. Again, no fault of their own. So that was one of the reasons why we conducted a survey, a paper and pencil survey of our middle school and high school students, because we felt we were best equipped to provide some type of remote learning or remote instruction to students who have been using that type of delivery model at the middle school and high school level. So that was one of the reasons why we administered the survey, to identify those families who don't have a device, families that do not have a device, families that need a device, not families that want a device. Again, we're focusing on needs and prioritizing those families for a couple of reasons. One, to be able to access materials, and also to be able to access information. We have a lot of valuable information on our website. We have a lot of links that families can utilize during this time, and we wanted to make sure that families that needed access had the ability through a Chromebook. And also we realized that a lot of our families don't have Wi-Fi access and access to the internet. So we did secure some hotspots that we were able to provide families with hotspots. So the delivery model for instruction that we focused on is, we realized, based on the information and feedback from our teachers and our principals, was at the middle school and high school level, they were best equipped to handle remote learning enrichment activities via Chromebooks, and also through paper and pencil traditional delivery model. At the elementary level, we felt, due to the age of the students and the type of work that they do on a day-to-day basis, and again, based on feedback from our principals and our teachers, that focusing on paper and pencil delivery and a combination of internet resources, we felt that would be the best model to utilize there. So we focused on a blended learning model where kids who don't have access wouldn't feel left out. So we really wanted to emphasize equity and access when we rolled out this plan 3 weeks ago, to provide our families with enrichment activities. And the enrichment activities we focused on really had to do with regression, meaning we don't want you to lose the knowledge you've learned this year. We don't want kids to go backwards. So that's where the enrichment activities really focused on, is making sure that whatever skills students secured up until March 13th, that they wouldn't lose those. Then obviously the deeper we go with this, obviously we'll change and adapt our plans accordingly. So just real quick, in the near future, most likely tomorrow and Monday and throughout this week coming up, you're going to be hearing from your teachers, and you're going to be hearing from me regarding the remote learning plan, that we successfully worked out with our teachers to begin implementing. So we're going to start preparing, and then we're going to roll it out on the 13th, which is in line with what the Commission of Education has asked us to do. With regards to meals, this was a non-negotiable for us. So as long as we can remain open, we're going to continue providing families that need assistance with lunch and breakfast. And right now we have 8 locations throughout the city of Taunton, and we're looking to add several more locations. And we've been averaging between breakfast and lunch, we've been averaging about 1,000 to 1,200 meals per day. And I did reach out to Bristol Plymouth's superintendent and informed him that any student who attends Bristol Plymouth and lives in Taunton, they're more than welcome to access the meals we have at our sites. We offered we made the same offer to our families at Bristol Aggie who live in Taunton, and also our parochial schools. So again, realizing that this is something that impacts everyone, we wanted to make sure that everyone in our community felt supported. With regards to operations, we made sure that we continue to clean our schools, we continue to sanitize our schools, and we wanted to make sure that custodians were checking on the buildings to make sure that when we do go back, that our buildings are in sound condition. For example, the first day of the closure, we ended up having a leak in one of our middle schools. So if we weren't checking on our schools, if we weren't cleaning our schools, we wouldn't have found that leak. And God only knows what we would have found when we returned. So it's very important to maintain operations. I hope none of your friends are upset by the fact that we locked all our athletic facilities. So we changed the baseball field, the tennis courts. We've taped off all our playgrounds. We're in the process of removing the rims at the Oakland basketball court. Again, we really want to make sure that we're doing our part to enforce social distancing. And again, I want to stress to you and your friends, do your part, stay home. We know that right now studies show, or the science shows, that young adults aren't impacted as much, but you can carry the virus and spread it on to your loved ones. And we know that the older folks throughout Taunton are more vulnerable. So please, 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 I cannot emphasize enough, do your part, practice social distancing to ensure the safety and well-being of others. So regarding compensation, we've been working very hard to make sure that our families and throughout the Taunton Public Schools, our teachers, our educational assistants, our custodians, we're working very hard to make sure that they have the resources they need to continue throughout this closure. And then regarding compensation, communication, we've been trying to make sure that the public stays up to date, whether it's robocalls that I started doing last week, whether it's written communications that we're emailing, texting, posting on our website. And in the near future, we're going to be doing some PSAs. And who knows, Hector, I might reach out to you to schedule some more interviews to help get the message out to students and families. So again, the EMOC protocol has helped us to address making sure that families, students have access to meals, to educational materials, and then obviously for us to stay focused and committed to operations, and obviously making sure our staff, that we have staff that they have the support they need to come back. And then obviously I want to make sure that our families feel like they're getting the latest information from the Taunton Public Schools. So we are committed to following the EMOC protocol, and that's what we're going to use to get us through this.
It sounds very good, especially being able to stay focused and focus on what we're actually trying to accomplish with the rest of the school year and within the community, because we're basically all in this together. So if we can all pull out of it together, that's the main important goal that we're all trying to achieve.
And I think with your ROTC background, you'd appreciate the EMOC protocol. It has a little military feel to it, but yeah, but it does help us. It does provide us with structure. And again, we always look at each other and say, where does it fall in EMOC? Does it fall in EMOC? Okay, do it. If it doesn't, it has to wait. Unfortunately, we have to focus and prioritize what we're doing, because we are really limited as far as our resources go during this time.
And it's proper preparation prevents poor performance. So definitely stay on top of it and doing your part, and the teachers doing their parts definitely is keeping. I haven't felt a huge disconnect. So I think that I think it is working from what I can see before hearing of this.
So if I can go back to communication, Hector, you just reminded me of a very important piece too. So one of the reasons we've been doing the communications and the robocalls is we have 8,000 students, roughly a little over 8,000 students in Taunton Public Schools, and we've been able to connect with about 98% of our students. So there's still 200 students out there that we are tracking down. So one of the reasons for the robocalls is to continue reminding staff to connect with their students and also to remind families to connect with their teachers and their principals. So again, I want to get to 100%. 98% is good, but it's not good enough. So anything you can do, Hector, to remind your classmates and your classmates to remind their classmates and their classmates to remind their classmates. We want to make sure that everyone is staying connected. So if you haven't heard from your teacher, tell your friends, email your teacher. If you're not hearing from your teacher, I mean, there may be other reasons, who knows, could be the wrong email. Email your building principal. I know people have been emailing me, and I've been emailing principals and getting staff to connect with kids. So we want to make sure that students and staff are connected. For me, that is one non-negotiable during the school closure, is to make sure that students and staff and families stay connected as a community. So anything you can do to help spread that message is greatly appreciated, because we want to get to 100%. We want to make sure that 100% of our student population has been in contact with their teacher or their principal.
Mm-hmm. No student left behind. It's very important, especially during these times. So as pretty much all students at this point most likely know, that Governor Baker did close down not only essential businesses, but also schools until May 4th. With what you know at the moment, and also from the Department of Education, what is the likeliness that you think we could go back May 4th? Or is it just too broad right now that we don't have enough information to determine that?
Yeah, I think the next 2 weeks are going to be vital. I think the next 2 weeks, based on everything that we are hearing and everything that we have learned, is going to be very important in determining the outcome and the direction that we head in as a city, as a state, and as a nation. So I really want to emphasize that, again, do your part, practice social distancing, stay in, only go out when you absolutely need to. We know how difficult it is. So with that said, I'm always the optimist. I'm optimistic that if we follow the guidelines, stick and do what our elected officials and medical officials are telling us to do, that there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. And hopefully that light at the end of the tunnel will mean we're back in school on May 4th. Obviously, things are fluid, and we're adjusting and we're preparing for the absolute worst. So that's the work that we're doing. So we're prepared to come back on May 4th, but obviously we're also preparing in the event that this gets extended. So long story short, I don't have a good answer for you, but I'm the eternal optimist. We're going to keep sending out positive energy. We're going to keep preparing for in the event that we do return, but also we'll be ready in the event that this closure does get extended.
Very good. And in the case that we do return May 4th, or if we do return this school year at all, and going into next school year, will there be, especially at the end of the school year, will there be any precautions to extracurricular activities or school field trips, mainly to prevent something similar if the case hasn't completely gone away, or just to prevent any unwanted situations to occur again?
Yeah, great point, Hector. So obviously, when we do return, whatever guidelines we are being recommended or being asked to follow, we will follow. So you may recall the week of, I don't know if you were following the school committee meetings, but before we closed on the 13th, we did meet as a group, and we did have a very healthy, lengthy discussion regarding field trips at that time. And pretty much we eliminated any field trips out of town and any field trips outside of the state. And we tried to limit our risk factor, or lower our risk factor, by not allowing outside groups to come into town. So I know that when we do return, it's a safe bet to say that there will be some guidelines or some guidance that we'll be asked to follow when we do come back to school. So I know there'll be a lot of pressure on our custodians to make sure the classrooms are cleaned. We'll continue to utilize our disinfecting system called ESS, which is electrostatic sanitizing system, which we go into our schools and sanitize them to eliminate any bacteria that might be existing. So whatever measures we need to take, we will follow the latest guidance presented to us by the Board of Health and also by the state medical officials.
Okay, that's good. That's good for not only students to know, but also advisors of high school clubs and middle school activities, just so that we can kind of anticipate what's going to go on. And at the moment, the MIAA for sports has determined that if we do go back May 4th, we will have a season starting May 11th at the earliest. So obviously that could change, but at the moment, that's what we've heard, and that's what we're going to be optimistic about, and hope that we can have a spring season, but anything can change.
Right.
with this
Right.
situation.
Yeah, again, the term we keep hearing is fluid. This situation
Mhm.
is very fluid, and it changes day to day based on the latest guidance that we're receiving. So, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm a medical expert, but what I will tell you is I will listen to the medical experts, and we will follow the guidance that they provide us to make sure that you're safe, your friends are safe, our teachers and our community overall is safe.
Because that's the most important part at the end of the day. Um,
Correct. Correct.
and in the classroom, so do you know what is going on for the MCAS? So the grade 9 biology MCAS and the grade 10 English and math MCAS. Um, do you know anything that we could use to prepare for or that we should know about?
Yeah, I know, and we didn't have a weekly meeting with the commissioner this week, so I anticipate we'll have one coming up. That's a topic that comes up often. I do know that the ELA MCAS has already been postponed or canceled. So obviously, any adjustments to the MCAS schedule will continue to inform students and let you know. So obviously, if this extends beyond May 4th, there will be some adjustments, or there possibly could be some cancellation to the MCAS. I do know the commissioner is looking to see if he can have the authority or if he has to go to the state legislature to either postpone or possibly cancel the MCAS. So that is something that is being discussed at the state level. And then obviously, whatever guidance they provide us, I'll make sure it gets communicated to all our families and students. So again, right now, I understand some kids may be concerned about the MCAS, but I really want you to be focused on your overall well-being at this time.
Mhm.
And obviously, also want you to be focused on engaging with your peers and staying connected with your teachers. And then when the MCAS or whenever the MCAS is rescheduled or scheduled, we'll deal with that as a community. And I anticipate the state would provide us with a sufficient time to prepare you for the test. And I would advocate that we don't drop the test on your lap and say you're back on May 4th and you're taking the MCAS on May 5th. I
Yeah.
would think that we would have a schedule that we would work out with all our students and teachers and do something that makes sense. The last thing I want to see happen during this time, and I've emphasized this to our school committee, and I've emphasized this to our principals, and we'll remind our teachers as well, is we don't want to see students be impacted academically. We know that this is already impacting our 8,000 students and our 1,300 employees. And the last thing I want to see is somebody be impacted negatively grade-wise over something that they had no control over.
Mhm. And another thing, juniors are they're already stressed enough with junior year, but with the SATs, the last I checked, were canceled for May. The June 6th SAT is still going to be administered at this time, but the school does usually, the high school, Taunton High School usually does do a school SAT day, and some students were wondering if the school administration would consider or think about having the school possibly reschedule that day, that so that the juniors can take it.
Yeah, so obviously when we get back, the emphasis will be trying to get back to a sense of normalcy. So
Mhm.
obviously, if we have time to reschedule the SATs, we will, and we'll do so in a manner that is safe and also that is efficient. So if there's guidelines that we have to administer tests and students have to be 3 feet apart, 6 feet apart, I mean that'll create some logistic issues for us when you
Mhm.
consider the scale of the high school. But again, when we get back there, we want to get back to getting things as normal as possible and getting you guys back into your routine. And if it means having to reschedule the SATs using the latest guidance that we're getting from medical officials, we'll figure it out. So one of the nice things about being in a large high school is that you do have multiple large spaces where we can strategically place students and pull something off like that. It may cause Mr. Matos and Mrs. Keenan to go gray a little faster, but I'm sure they could figure it out again with sufficient time. So we want to make sure that students are not impacted negatively and that we get back to a sense of normalcy as soon as possible when we do go back.
Mhm. And that's very important, just to not waste any time when we get back, to kind of pick up right where we left off. In an effort to minimize any panic or uncertainty, students are wondering, and there are rumors that students would have to redo this current school year. Do you have any information on the accuracy of that statement, or any information that you may have?
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed that as a leadership team, and that's come up with our school board. And again, I continue to emphasize and stress: I do not want students to suffer or be hurt over something they had no control over. So we will do everything possible to make sure that students go forward, students do not go backwards. And again, I don't want to see anyone suffer or be punished during this unusual or unprecedented circumstance. So we are committed to making sure that no one suffers and no one is hurt during this time. Academically, academically, that's very important to us. We realize there may be some gaps. We anticipate there will be some gaps. So that's why we've already started talking about what our summer school offerings will look like in the event that we can meet in groups, or in the event that we have to continue with this social distancing. We're starting to give that some thought, knowing that when we do go back, there are going to be some students who we need to get caught up, or some students we need to close gaps. So we want to make sure that we provide as much opportunity as possible. So what I will say to your classmates, Hector, is whatever work your teachers are asking you to do, whether it's enrichment or whether it's remote learning, hold on to that work, so that when we do go back and you turn it into your teacher, we want to make sure that you have evidence that you participate in the activities, so that you can receive some credit for the work that you've done. So we want to remind students, whatever work you're being asked to do, save it, share it with your teachers, because we want to make sure that no one is hurt moving forward. And obviously no one is punished because, one, they don't have access, or two, maybe they had to relocate during this time because their family didn't have the means to stay here. And also because we understand every family is different during this time. And we want to make sure, again, I know I sound like a broken record. We want to make sure that no one is hurt because of something they had no control over. But we do want you to take advantage of what we are providing you during this time. Your teachers are working very hard to provide you with access and resources. So please take advantage of these opportunities.
Thank you. And I know I've been doing my work, and it also gives kind of a sense of something to do to stay busy and stay motivated to continue through what's going to be the next 4 weeks. With the situation that it's very unclear, do you think it could entitle a pass-fail situation in the school system where if it had to get to a point like that, that would be implemented, or is that being considered?
So yeah, some of the guidance we've received from the commissioner, again, was not to focus on grades during this time, but if there was new learning taking place, what the commissioner suggested, and I believe it makes sense, is credit or no credit. So if a student completes the assignment and does it to the satisfaction, or does it to a minimum satisfaction, that they would receive credit versus no credit. So again, we'll remind your classmates, whatever work that they're being asked to work on, whether it's enrichment, or as you make this shift towards remote learning, save your work, create a portfolio, stick it in a folder, put it under your bed, stick it in your closet. Just hold on to whatever work you are doing, so that when we do come back, you can share and demonstrate to your staff to our teachers, that you were engaged, or you were participating to the best of your ability during this closure. So again, we realize these are unusual circumstances, and someone's best ability will vary throughout the district.
Very well, thank you. Another point that many students are wondering is, will seniors potentially graduate on time?
So we've been giving that some thought in the event that we cannot have a large gathering. I don't know if you've ever attended one of our graduations, Hector, but you have about 500 seniors seated, and then you have close to 1,600 people in attendance, standing or sitting. So you're talking over 2,000 people in the gym. So it's a
very crowded.
Yeah, and it's a dignified event. So some of the things we've been considering is it possible to do a virtual graduation? So I know, these are just ideas I've been running through my mind, where maybe we can record the dignitaries giving their speeches, and then maybe some kind of a slideshow where we roll all the seniors across the screen who will be graduating with their scholarships that they receive, or the academic honors that they received, and also maybe the college that they plan on attending, or what they plan on doing after high school. So I'm giving that some thought as maybe almost along the lines of a virtual graduation, if we have to go down that road where we cannot, again, meet in a large group, or maybe we could delay it and do something physically if we're allowed to do that in the summer, knowing that seniors will most likely be going off to college in the fall. So again, this is a time for us to be creative and to utilize the technology and the resources that we have, and again, come up with a way where we can stay connected and yet still hold some of these events that we hold near and dear to us, and then we can still pull them off in a way that's non-traditional, but yet still shows the respect to the students who've worked very hard over their 5 years of time in high school.
Yeah, it's very important. And then that would be considered for whether seniors would still buy their cap and gowns. So if it were virtual, um, it'd be up in the air, but that is something that the school administration would consider.
Again, knowing how resources are very limited for many families, I really would prefer that families not focus on purchasing caps and gowns and
Okay.
using those funds for something else. I mean, caps and gowns could mean the decision whether or not you're buying groceries that week or you're buying a cap and gown. So if we did do something virtual, I was thinking, and again, I'll have to discuss this with Mr. Mattos and Mrs. Keenan and his staff about maybe using the senior photos that are going in the yearbook and doing some type of a slideshow where we could see the student and again listing their accomplishments on the side of a slide and moving that forward. So it'd probably mean more work for Mr. Jakes, but he's a great guy. He's been helping us out tremendously. And again, we're open to suggestions, but that's just one idea. That's just my idea. Obviously, I would welcome input from the high school on how they feel or they would feel would be the best way to go about doing some type of a graduation, whether it's physical, where we're actually in the auditorium, or we do something remotely. And by doing it remotely, we would also be able to provide students with a CD or with a DVD
Mm-hmm.
graduation in lieu of obviously having to go there and videotape it. So again, it's where these are uncharted times. There's no right answer. And that's just one answer coming from me, but obviously we would work as a team and take a lot of input in and do what we feel is best, and also what we can accomplish during this time. Again, knowing that we're working with very limited resources.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And then lastly, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but throughout the three different grade levels for elementary, middle school, and high school, what are the kind of plans going forward for either each individual section or all of them together, whether it be, like you said, remote learning or a different approach that we may not know about? If you can just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'll touch upon it a little bit. So what we're asking is we have curriculum department heads at the high school who oversee each department, each academic area. And we also, at the elementary level, pre-K through 7, we have district curriculum coordinators, and we also have instructional coaches in our elementary and middle schools. So what we're asking our curriculum department heads and our instructional coaches and curriculum leaders to do is to map out the themes for each week that we are out, to provide staff with structure, and also to identify resources that they can utilize to share with students. So I can't get into too much detail again as we're finalizing these plans with our teachers, and it's been tremendous amount of work, but it's been good work. It's been a true collaboration, and philosophically, it's great when we bring administrators and teachers into a room, and even our school board. When we come together and we realize that philosophically we're all on the same page and committed to one thing, or two things I should say, is staying connected to our kids and making sure that we're providing our students with opportunities to engage in learning. So again, we want to make sure we have those weekly themes. We're gonna do our best to provide opportunities for staff to collaborate, to make sure that the materials that they're sending out to the students is the same from building to building, grade to grade. And obviously, if staff want to supplement or add enrichment activities to the work they're being guided to do, obviously that's great. And it's been a tremendous. I love going on Twitter or Facebook and seeing all the creativity that is taking place. You see teachers doing nature walks. You see teachers posting baking videos that involve math and fractions and figuring out recipes. And you see faculty reading books to their kids, or you even see faculty showing pictures of Zoom meetings that they're having with their kids. It's been tremendous to see the level of creativity. So if there's a silver lining that will come out of this, will be our ability to adapt and utilize technology, which I think will enhance the traditional brick and mortar learning that takes place when we do return. I think there'll be more opportunities for kids to engage remotely, which is exciting.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to prepare us for that situation, whether similar or a little bit different than this in the future. we'd already have now a foundation of what we can build on and prepare for. So is
Yeah,
there any last,
we're
okay.
developing our playbook, because the playbook is this. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, sorry, Hector, this is your interview, not mine.
no, I was just gonna say, is there anything else you'd like to add? Any last statements?
No, I just want to ask you. I mean, what do you miss most, Hector? What is the one thing that you cannot wait to do when this is all over and done with?
I'd say extracurriculars. Baseball season was right around the corner. Then it
Yeah.
got canceled. Then it got pushed back again. And hopefully now going back May 4th. JRTC getting back, seeing Major Anderson and Master Sergeant LaPlante. And DECA going back, getting work in, and kind of picking off where we left off. So I do love classrooms, do love classes. But I think extracurriculars are my favorite. And that's what I'm kind of itching to get back to.
And then one question, this is the one question I keep asking my family, so I'll ask you, Hector. Is there one restaurant you are dying to visit when this is all said and done? And what are you going to order?
Ooh, I don't know. I like El Mariachi down in the Taunton Green. I do like the rice and beans they have there. But I don't know. Very difficult. I do like a lot. So I'll have to think about that and get back to you with an answer.
Well, maybe next Saturday we can connect again, and you'll have an answer for me as far as what restaurant you're dying to visit and what's going to be your first meal off the menu.
Sounds good.
Sound good. The only thing I want to ask is, knowing how active and how busy you are. I mean, you just rattled off like baseball, DECA, and ROTC, and that doesn't even include the academics that you're involved in. So I can only imagine how difficult and challenging this must be for you, knowing how active and how involved you are at Taunton High School. So it's kids like you that I think about often, and making sure that we're doing our part, knowing how engaged and how involved and how committed you are to your education, your learning. It motivates us as educators to make sure that we're doing our part to provide you with the opportunities you need to stay engaged. So in closing, the only thing I would like to say is, be safe, be well, and obviously be kind. The one thing I've really appreciated during the 3 weeks we've been out, and it gives us the motivation as a leadership team to continue working hard for everyone, is the very thoughtful emails, letters, messages that we've been receiving, because these are unprecedented times. This is not an opportunity. This is not a time for us to be divisive, to be divided. This is a time for us to come together, support each other, check in on each other, and by working together and staying connected, I know the Taunton Public School community and the city of Taunton, we will get through this. If anything, one thing I've learned, that this is a community that really cares about each other, and this is a community that looks out for each other. So if we continue to do that, I believe we'll be fine. I stay connected with the city on their side, and they follow what we're doing on the school side. So we are collaborating and working together to make sure that students, families, the Taunton Public Schools in the city of Taunton, we will get through this. And like I like to say, like to tell everyone after my morning workouts, we got this time.
Love it. Just thank you. Stay safe with you and your family. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon, and we'll keep updating the community on what's happening and what we're going to be planning to get back to, because I'm sure we're both just itching to get back.
Well, again, yes, I do miss visiting the schools, and I believe I had May 16th. I think it was May 16th. We were scheduled to do our shadow day. I don't think I shared that with you, but I already had it booked. So you're going to get to shadow me for a day. So I don't know how you can shadow me virtually, but you're more than welcome to follow me around for a day on Zoom if you want.
Sounds good.
All right, Hector, take care, and let's try to connect next Saturday. I enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed it too.
I did. Thank you.
All right, take care, Hector. Bye-bye.
You as well. Bye.